My name is Nina Signorelli. I'm 28, I live in Austin, and until about 6 months ago, I genuinely believe my life was normal. Not perfect, not Instagram perfect, but steady, predictable in a good way. I'm a software engineer at a mid-sized tech startup. Solid salary, decent benefits, the kind of job where your brain is always buzzing even when your laptop is closed. I own my condo, drive a paid-off Tacoma that I refuse to trade in because it's never failed me once, and I go to the gym often enough to convince myself I'm balanced. A very average millennial life. And for 2.5 years, that life included my boyfriend, Mason Hayes. We met through mutual friends at a rooftop bar downtown. String lights, overpriced cocktails, music loud enough that you had to lean in close to talk. Mason had that easy charm that didn't feel rehearsed. He worked in marketing, knew how to talk to people, made me laugh without trying too hard. We clicked fast. For the first year and a half, our relationship felt effortless. Weekend trips to Fredericksburg, exploring new BBQ joints around Austin, lazy Sundays binge-watching shows while ordering way too much Thai food and swearing we'd eat clean next week. Mason would come over after work, kick off his shoes, hover around the kitchen while I cooked like he was my emotional support human. He stole my hoodies even though they swallowed him whole. We had a running competition about who could find the weirdest taco place in the city, and I mean weird in the best way. We once drove an hour because a Yelp review said, "Life-changing, don't ask questions." Those were good times, simple times, the kind of times that make you think, okay, this could be real, this could last. Mason was thoughtful in the little ways. He'd surprise me with coffee on mornings when I looked half dead. He laughed at my terrible jokes, even the ones I repeated. He held my hand in public like he was proud to be there. I thought that meant trust. I didn't realize how fragile that trust actually was. The shift didn't start with Mason. It started with his friends. Or more specifically, those friends. Vanessa, Claire, Becca. They'd been Mason's best friends since college, and on the surface, they looked like the kind of women who had it all together. Social media full of brunch photos, inspirational captions, know your worth quotes, and endless posts about boundaries and standards. But spending any real time around them revealed the truth. Vanessa had been divorced twice by 27. She called herself a life coach, which really meant unemployed, but extremely active on Instagram. She charged women hundreds of dollars an hour to tell them their boyfriends were trash. Claire worked in real estate and treated open houses like speed dating events. Then she complained about men never committing, like she wasn't picking them the way you pick clearance items. Becca was a bartender who believed every guy who tipped well was flirting. And yet, all three of them acted like relationship experts. They talked about love like it was a trap, men like they were a defective product, and insecurity like it was intuition. At first, Mason didn't seem affected, but around month 18 of our relationship, things started to change. Girls' nights went from once a month to twice a week, then 3 times. Then suddenly Mason was having lunch with them every day. And every time he came back from hanging out with them, something felt off. Like someone had planted a thought in his head and left it there to grow. The first moment I really noticed it was small, almost laughable. We were sitting on my couch one night, legs tangled, watching a show neither of us was actually paying attention to. My phone buzzed and I smiled because it was a meme from Sarah, a coworker in accounting who was 55, married, and sent the kind of jokes your aunt would send in a family group chat. Mason paused the show. "Why are you smiling at your phone?" I blinked. "It's a meme." "From who?" I laughed softly, thinking he was joking. "Sarah from accounting." He didn't laugh back. "Why do you have her number?" I stared at him. "Because we work together?" He shrugged, like the answer should have been obvious. "Vanessa says people don't text coworkers unless there's something going on." I waited for the punchline. It never came. That was the first time I felt it, that strange cold twist in my chest. Not anger, not fear. Confusion. Because for over a year, Mason had been secure, calm, normal. Now he was looking at me like I was hiding something. And once it started, it didn't stop. If I mentioned a female coworker by name, Mason suddenly needed details. How old is she? Is she pretty? Do you eat lunch together? If I went to the gym after work, he'd ask why I didn't tell him sooner. Once, I came home with a different brand of deodorant because H-E-B was out of my usual one, and Mason stared at it in my bathroom cabinet like it was a smoking gun. Becca says people only change grooming habits when they're trying to impress someone new. I remember thinking, is this real life? Because it felt so absurd it bordered on parody. Like at any second, someone was going to jump out and yell, Got you! But no one did. What scared me most wasn't the accusations themselves. It was how comfortable Mason was saying them out loud. Like he truly believed I was capable of betraying him, because his friends told him I was. My best friend Tara Whitman had known me since college. Tara could read people in seconds. She lifted heavier than most men at my gym and had zero tolerance for nonsense. When I told her what was happening, we were mid-workout. She stopped mid-rep and just stared at me. "Nina," she said slowly, "those three are poison." I sighed. "They're just loud." "No," she corrected. "They're strategic. They can't stand watching someone have peace. They'll mess with Mason's head until he destroys something good." I wanted to believe Mason was smarter than that. He had a degree, a career, a brain. Surely he could see through their paranoia, right? But over the next few weeks, things escalated. Mason started checking my phone when I was in the shower. He asked why grocery runs took so long. If I worked late, he'd ask, "Are you really working?" Never directly accusing me, just planting the seed. A seed that wasn't mine. Then came the night I met all three of them together again, after months of keeping my distance. Vanessa invited Mason to her apartment for a small get-together and insisted I come. I almost declined, but part of me thought maybe, if they saw me as a real person, the suspicion would stop. Vanessa opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Nina," she said, dragging my name out. "So good to see you." Inside, Claire was glued to her phone. Becca poured drinks like she owned the place. The conversation was normal at first, almost friendly. Then Vanessa tilted her head and asked casually, "So, how's work? Still surrounded by, a lot of people?" "A lot of people," I repeated. Claire smirked. "Mason says you've been staying late more." I glanced at Mason. He didn't correct her. He just watched me. And that's when it hit me. They weren't curious. They were collecting details like evidence. Becca leaned against the counter. "You ever notice how people who are innocent always get defensive?" My jaw tightened. "Defensive about what?" Vanessa laughed lightly. "Relax, we're just talking." But Mason wasn't hearing just talking. He was hearing confirmation. On the drive home, he barely spoke. I tried to make conversation. He answered in one-word responses. Finally, I asked, "What's going on?" "Nothing," he said. But his silence said everything. Watching his face in the dashboard light, a thought settled into my chest, heavy and unwelcome. Mason doesn't look like someone who trusts me. He looks like someone waiting for me to slip. And the cruelest part? I still loved him enough to think I could fix it. I didn't realize I was already being put on trial. And the verdict had nothing to do with the truth. It had everything to do with the story his friends wanted him to believe. If you'd asked me then, I would have told you the worst part wasn't the accusations. It was the anticipation. That constant low-level tension, like living in a house where you're never sure which floorboard is going to creak too loudly and set something off. I started measuring my words without realizing it, editing myself mid-sentence, thinking twice before mentioning anyone's name. That's not how trust is supposed to feel. Around January, my workload ramped up. One of our biggest clients was pushing a full system overhaul, and my manager asked me to take the lead on the back-end integration. High visibility, high pressure, career-defining if it went well. I told Mason everything, showed him the emails, walked him through what the project meant. At first, he was supportive. "I'm proud of you," he said, kissing my forehead one night as I packed my laptop. "You deserve this." I believed him. Then came the girls' night at Vanessa's place. Mason came back around 11, quieter than usual. He didn't complain about the wine this time, didn't make a joke. He just sat on the edge of my couch like he had something rehearsed. "You've been working late a lot," he said. I nodded. "I told you that would happen." "Are you sure that's all it is?" I stared at him. "What else would it be?" He hesitated. "Claire says people use work as an excuse all the time." There it was again. "Not you, not I feel, not I'm worried," Claire says. I felt something in me tighten. Claire's been cheated on by every guy she's dated because she ignores red flags and dates walking disasters. That was a mistake. Mason's posture stiffened immediately. "Don't talk about my friends like that." "I'm not attacking them," I said, already tired. "I'm pointing out that they're projecting." He crossed his arms. "You're being dismissive." "I'm being factual. That was our first real fight. Not about trust. About loyalty. And I didn't realize it then, but that distinction mattered more than anything. After that night, the accusations multiplied. If I stayed late at work, he'd text, "Still there?" If I went to the gym, he'd ask, "Who goes at that time?" If I grabbed lunch with a coworker to talk through an API issue, he'd go quiet for hours afterward, like silence was punishment. Once, I stopped at H-E-B on the way home and came back with groceries for a recipe I wanted to try. Mason glanced at the bags. "Who's that for?" I blinked. "Me?" He laughed like I was missing the joke. Just saying. Becca thinks when people start cooking new things, it's usually for someone else. I remember standing there, holding a bag of bell peppers, thinking, this can't be my life. The breaking point, the moment my confusion turned into something closer to anger, came over deodorant. I reached for my usual brand one morning and realized I was out. Picked a different one on my next grocery run without thinking twice. That night, Mason stood in my bathroom doorway, holding it. You switched brands. Yes. Why? Because the store didn't have my normal one. He frowned. Becca says, I cut him off. If Becca told you this guy was cheating on you, would you believe her? He didn't laugh. He just looked hurt, like I was the one crossing a line. That's when it hit me. He wasn't embarrassed by how ridiculous this sounded. He was committed to it, and that terrified me. I tried to fix it the way logical people do. I invited Mason to my office, told him he could meet my team, see where I worked, watch me do my job. He declined. I offered to share my work calendar so he could see every meeting I had. He said that felt controlling. I suggested couples counseling. That one really set him off. So now I'm the problem, he snapped. I didn't say that, I said quietly. I'm saying we have a problem. But what he really meant was, he wanted to keep accusing me without risking being proven wrong. Because if he was wrong, then Vanessa was wrong. Claire was wrong. Becca was wrong. And Mason wasn't ready to face what that would mean. I talked to Tara almost every day during that period. She's rewriting reality, Tara said one night over the phone, and Mason's letting her. I love him, I whispered. I know, she said gently, but love doesn't survive interrogation. I started noticing something else too. Mason wasn't just suspicious. He was watching my reactions, my tone, my patience. Like he expected me to crack and reveal something. And the longer I didn't, the more agitated he became. Because innocence doesn't give you the dramatic payoff paranoia promises. It's boring. And boring doesn't validate his friend's worldview. By February, I felt like I was living with a checklist of invisible rules I didn't know. Smile too much? Suspicious. Come home too quiet? Guilty. Defend myself? Proof of lying. Stay calm? Calculated. There was no winning. The worst part? I started doubting myself. Not my loyalty, but my judgment. How did I end up here? How did someone who used to trust me completely turn into this? I kept telling myself it would blow over. That Mason would wake up one day and realize how insane this had gotten. That love would override influence. I didn't realize something crucial. Mason wasn't choosing between truth and lies. He was choosing between me and the people who made him feel righteous in his fear. And he hadn't chosen yet. March was coming, and with it, the moment that would force his hand, whether I was ready or not. March arrived quietly. No warning, no dramatic build-up, just a calendar flip and a feeling in my gut that something was off. That Friday, I was working from home. One of our biggest clients, based in California, had scheduled a video call for the afternoon. It was routine. Quarterly projections, implementation timelines, the usual corporate buzzwords that made you nod like you understood everything, even when you didn't. I was in my home office, headset on, screen shared, walking through data dashboards while 6 tiny boxes stared back at me. My manager, a sales lead, someone from IT, and Melissa, the client liaison. Camera on, professional smile, asking smart questions. About 20 minutes in, I heard the front door open. Mason had a key. He'd sometimes come over early on Fridays if his day wrapped up fast. I didn't think anything of it. I finished the call, wrapped things up, saved the recording, and stood up, stretching my back. I felt good, productive, accomplished. When I stepped into the living room, Mason was sitting on the couch. Not scrolling, not relaxed. Just sitting there, phone in hand, jaw tight. That's when I noticed his expression. Not angry, not sad. It was smug, like someone who thought they'd finally won. Hey, I said lightly. Didn't know you were coming by. I leaned in to kiss him. He pulled back. Don't. I froze. What's wrong? I know everything, he said, crossing his arms. I literally saw it with my own eyes. My stomach dropped. Saw what? You've been cheating on me. The words hit the room like broken glass. I blinked. What? With her, he snapped, pointing toward my office. The woman on your computer. For a second, I honestly thought he was joking. Then I realized he wasn't. Mason, I said slowly, I was on a work call. I saw her, he shot back, voice rising. You had a one-on-one video call with another woman. Don't gaslight me. It took a moment for it to click. Melissa, the client. That was a meeting, I said, keeping my voice calm through sheer force of will. There were 6 people on that call. My boss was there. Sales was there. It was there. It's literally recorded. Why would you have a private video call with another woman if you weren't cheating? He demanded. It wasn't private, I said, incredulous. And even if it were, that's my job. People work with other people. That's how employment works. He shook his head like I was missing something obvious. I knew it, he said quietly. Vanessa said this would happen. There it was. The script. I felt something in me go very still. You can check the recording, I said. You can check the invite. I'll call my manager right now if you want. He'll explain the whole meeting. I don't need to see anything, Mason said, standing up. I've seen enough. That sentence hurt more than the accusation. After 2.5 years, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, you won't even look at the proof? You're defensive, he snapped. That's a red flag. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unreal. So what do you want me to do? I asked. What evidence would satisfy you? He grabbed his jacket. We're done. Just like that. No discussion, no verification, no conversation. He decided I was guilty because he saw a woman's face on my screen during a work call. Mason, wait, I said, following him to the door. Don't, he cut me off. I can't believe I wasted 2.5 years on you. Vanessa warned me. Claire warned me. Becca warned me. He slammed the door so hard my neighbor's dog started barking. I stood there for a long time. Not crying, not screaming. Just standing. 10 minutes passed before I moved. I sat on my couch and stared at the blank TV screen like it might explain what just happened. Then I called Tara. She dumped me, I said when she answered. What? Tara said. Why? She saw a woman on my work call and decided I was cheating. There was a long pause. Aw, you're kidding. I wish I were. That's it? She asked. That's the evidence? That's the evidence. Tara exhaled slowly. Nina, those friends finally did it. Something shifted in me then. Not heartbreak. Clarity. I realized I'd spent months defending myself against something that never existed. Against people who didn't want truth. They wanted confirmation. I'm not chasing him, I said quietly. Good, Tara replied immediately. Because if you do, you teach him this behavior works. After we hung up, I blocked Mason everywhere. Phone, social media, email, Venmo. I changed my streaming passwords. Went full no contact. Some people would have tried to prove their innocence. But here's the thing. I don't beg people to trust me. If you can believe I'm a cheater with zero evidence, you don't deserve access to my life. The weeks after were strangely freeing. I threw myself into work, hit the gym harder, went out with Tara and our friends, laughed without checking my phone every 5 minutes. My project wrapped up successfully. I got praised, got a bonus. And Mason? He was probably at Vanessa's place, celebrating how right they'd all been. But that wasn't the end. Because there was someone else in that friend group. Someone who'd been watching this unfold from a distance. And soon, she'd step into my life in a way none of us expected. About 3 weeks after the breakup, I ran into Sienna Park completely by accident. I was at a small craft brewery downtown with Tara, one of those places that smelled like hops and ambition, when I spotted her sitting alone at the bar, scrolling through her phone with the same tired posture I'd been carrying around for weeks. I recognized her instantly. Sienna had been part of Mason's college friend group. Not one of them, not Vanessa, Claire, or Becca, but the quiet fourth, the one who slowly drifted away while the others got louder. She'd roomed with Mason freshman year before transferring to UT Austin for a better engineering program. They stayed in touch, loosely. I'd met her maybe 4 or 5 times over the years. Birthdays, group dinners, once at Mason's graduation. She was always calm, observant, the kind of person who listened more than she spoke. Tara followed my gaze. Isn't that Mason's friend? Was, I said. You gonna say hi? I hesitated, then shrugged. Why not? I grabbed my drink and walked over. Sienna? She looked up, eyes widening slightly before softening into a smile. Nina, hey. Didn't expect to see you here. Yeah, she said, half smiling. Waiting on food, killing time. How are you? I asked. She paused. Honestly, she said quietly, I've been better. I raised an eyebrow. Mason told you what happened? She made air quotes. His version. I exhaled. Let me guess. I cheated. With someone from work, she said flatly. Which is ridiculous. I blinked. You believe me? She snorted. Nina, I work in tech. I'm on video calls all day. If that's cheating, everyone I know is in a polycule. That caught me off guard. I laughed. Actually laughed. I tried to tell him, she continued, for months. I told him Vanessa was poisoning his head. He wouldn't hear it. That sounds about right. That's why I stopped hanging out with them, she said. I did over a year ago. They're exhausting. Her food arrived then, breaking the tension. I'm here with Tara, I said, nodding toward our table, if you want to join us. Sienna hesitated for half a second, then smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. That night felt easy in a way I hadn't realized I'd been craving. No walking on eggshells, no subtext, no suspicion hiding behind questions. Tara liked Sienna instantly. Finally, she said after Sienna excused herself to the restroom, someone from that group with a functioning brain. Over wings and drinks, Sienna told us about her own breakup a few months earlier, an ex who'd actually cheated, with receipts, messages, lies, the whole thing. That's what real cheating looks like, she said calmly. Evidence, patterns, not a woman's face on a Zoom call. I nodded, something settling in my chest. We exchanged numbers that night, not flirtatiously, not secretly, just naturally. After that, we started texting, memes, work stories, dumb jokes about bugs and code that ruined our days. A week later, Tara threw a small get-together and told me to invite whoever I wanted. So I invited Sienna. She showed up in jeans, sneakers, and a UT shirt, holding a six-pack like she belonged there. No drama, no performance. She just fit. At one point, Tara leaned over and whispered, "She's solid." I agreed. Still, I wasn't looking to date. I was enjoying the quiet, the peace, the absence of interrogation. But over the next few weeks, Sienna and I kept crossing paths. Lunches turned into long conversations, tech meetups, a Longhorns game where she knew every play and trash-talked like a pro. One night, she came over to help me debug a side project I'd been working on, a fitness app I was building for fun. Hours passed, laptops everywhere, energy drinks piling up. Then she leaned back and snapped her fingers. "Found it." I stared at my screen. "You're kidding." She grinned. "Nope, race condition in your async calls." I laughed, louder than I meant to, and she did a little victory spin in my living room. "We make a good team," she said. Something clicked. Not fireworks. Not chaos. Just rightness. 2 weeks later, I asked her out properly. Dinner, candles, no ambiguity. She smiled over her glass. "I was wondering when you'd ask." "I didn't want to complicate things," I admitted. She nodded. "I get that, but I'm glad you did." We kept it quiet at first, not out of guilt, but protection. We were building something fragile, and we both knew the moment Mason found out, the storm would come. We just didn't know how violent it would be. We'd been officially dating for about 6 weeks when Mason found out. Not because we posted anything, not because we wanted attention. Because chaos has a way of sniffing out peace. It happened at a tech networking event downtown. One of those things people pretend to enjoy because it feels productive. Sienna was speaking on a panel about women in engineering. I went to support her, sat near the back, proud in that quiet way you don't announce. Neither of us knew Mason would be there. Apparently, he hadn't attended one of those events in over a year. According to Sienna, he'd lost interest in professional development. But that night he showed up. Sienna spotted him first. Her shoulders stiffened just slightly. "Oh." I followed her gaze. "Mason." And before either of us could react, he was already walking toward her with exaggerated enthusiasm. "Oh my God, Sienna," he said, pulling her into a hug that lasted a beat too long. "It's been forever." She smiled politely and stepped back. "Hey, Mason." "We should catch up," he said quickly. "I have so much to tell you about Nina and everything that happened." "Stop," Sienna said calmly. He blinked. "What?" "I already know what happened," she said. "Nina told me. The actual version." Mason frowned. "When did you talk to her?" "We've been talking for a while," she replied, then without hesitation. "We're dating." I wish I could say I saw his face. I didn't. But Sienna described it later with precision. Shock, confusion, anger, betrayal, rage. All in about 3 seconds. "You're dating my ex," he said, voice low. "I'm dating the woman you dumped for having a work call," Sienna corrected. "A work call you refused to verify." "That's not—" "You didn't let her explain," she continued. "You didn't look at proof. You chose Vanessa, Claire, and Becca over common sense." That's when Vanessa appeared. Of course she did. Like a toxic genie summoned by insecurity. "What the hell is going on here?" Vanessa demanded, stepping between them. "You don't date your friend's ex. That's girl code." Sienna didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. "Vanessa," she said evenly, "you've been divorced twice before 30 and have destroyed every healthy relationship around you. I don't think I'll be taking relationship advice from you." According to Sienna, Vanessa looked like she'd been slapped. Mason didn't say another word. He just stared. Later that night, the calls started. From unknown numbers. Blocked numbers. Burner numbers. I didn't answer. Then Tara texted me screenshots. Vanessa calling me a manipulator, Claire calling me a predator, Becca saying I'd planned this all along. I felt nothing. For the first time in months, I wasn't defending myself. I was done explaining reality to people who preferred fantasy. Sienna and I went public a few days later. Just one photo, us smiling. No caption. The comments were immediate. Snake emojis, skull emojis, passive-aggressive nonsense. We ignored it. The real explosion came a week later. It was a Tuesday night, around 10 p.m. Sienna and I were on her couch, half watching a movie, when her phone buzzed with a ring notification. Her face drained of color. "It's Mason!" I stood up immediately. "Don't open it." But he was already yelling through the door. "Sienna, I know you're in there. We need to talk." She opened the door with the chain still on. "Mason, it's late. What do you want?" "I want you to break up with her," he said, voice cracking. "She's my ex. This is wrong." "That's rich," I said, stepping into view. "You dumped me." His face crumpled when he saw me. "You're really with her?" he whispered. "You're actually dating her?" "Yes," I said calmly, "because she trusts me." He slid down the hallway wall, sobbing like the scene was scripted. "I made a mistake," he cried. "Please, I'll do anything." I looked at him and felt nothing. "No," I said. "What?" "No," I repeated. "You don't get to dump me with zero evidence, let your friends smear my name, and then come back when you realize you were wrong." "But I love you." "No," I said again. "You love the version of me your friends created. You never loved me." Sienna closed the door while he kept yelling. Security escorted him out. The next morning, his father called me. "I'm embarrassed," he said. "A work call? That's what he threw away 2.5 years over?" "Yes," I said quietly. "You deserve better," he replied, "and I'm sorry." That was the last conversation I ever had about Mason. Sienna and I have been together 4 months now. We're moving in together next month. No accusations, no paranoia, no trials. Just trust. Last I heard, Mason started therapy. His friends are still single, still miserable, still posting empowerment quotes while wrecking lives. Some people need villains to avoid accountability. I chose peace instead, and I've never regretted it.